with the Three Money Amigos. Today, you have myself, Brent Simpson, co founder of Investing Education Academy. And I am here today to talk to you about things you should be paying attention to or preparing key ways you should prepare for the tax season, coming tax season. Actually, I think we're now in tax season. So, with that being said, we are missing two of the Three Money Amigos, Attorney Beverly Winstead. And I will say this, if you are looking to do tax planning, if you want to sit down, especially if you have any type of IRS litigation issues, please contact her. You can go to www.irshelpattorneys.com to get in contact with her and make an appointment. And we're also missing Joyce Distrunk, CPA. If your company or your firm or yourself, you're looking to sit down with somebody to prepare also your taxes, or you're really looking at how you're structuring your business, you could absolutely set an appointment. You can go to www.pgs-cpa.com. And both those individuals are preparing for tax season. So you have me today. And I'm going to talk about key things you can do to be better prepared for tax season. And I have a list. So if you can see me looking to the side, I'm looking at my list. I tried to make this pretty straightforward. Again, if you have questions, it's a great time to ask the questions. But other than that, let's jump into it. First, you want to make sure you have all your documents in order. From the last year that you did taxes, hopefully you did taxes last year. And if you didn't, you definitely need to schedule an appointment to make sure you're not paying too much in fees and penalties from having not filed before. Even if you think you didn't have to file for whatever reason it might be, meet with a professional, get advice, and go from there. Now, get organized. When you did your taxes last year, it was a certain amount of documents that you needed. There are questions that your tax preparer or you prepared, if you prepared for yourself, that documents that you needed to have. Make sure you have those documents. This year is a great opportunity for you to take the process and create a spreadsheet with a checklist. What documents did you need this year? What things came up this year? Put it on the checklist as documents needed for next year. More than likely, you will need those same documents next year. The other thing is understand what documents you have. Sometimes we think because we give information to a professional that somehow they just know everything missing. They do not. You should be familiar with the documents. You should be familiar with any documents still, on their way to you. Some people are just now receiving 1099s. Some people are still issuing 1099s. So you definitely know what's needed and what the documents are and what they're for. This part you can either do yourself if you file yourself, or if you have a professional, I will leave it up to them. Keep up with the changes in tax laws. A lot of tax laws have changed of late, and I think it's a bit much for any one person to keep up with. So I would suggest, leaning on your professionals for understanding of what tax laws have recently changed. But again, if you want, you want to, go about it yourself. And some people just love reading code. Feel free to do so. The other one is make sure that the tax service that you're using, be it a professional or software, is relevant and up to date. Sometimes we go out, and I'll even go a step further. Sometimes we have old software that we're still utilizing for, tax planning purposes, tax filing purposes, and it's outdated. And because we're used to it, we refuse to change. Also, too, for anybody who has those parents who are aging, and that the software they're using or the process they're using is terribly outdated. This is an opportunity to say, I listened to a podcast recently with the Three Money Amigos, and I realized we should talk about the software and or the strategies you're using to file your taxes and prepare your taxes. As our parents age, there are different deductions they can take advantage of, different loopholes they can take advantage of. Their incomes change. A lot of things change. So we want to make sure they're not doing the same things they did maybe in their working years. Also, make sure that you account for your retirement accounts. Now, notice what I said there. Account for them. I'm not saying report them, because, again, this podcast is not intended for personal advice to anybody. You should research everything said in here to see if it's applicable to you. And I would highly suggest consulting your tax professional. If you don't have one, you can reach out to Attorney Beverly Winstead, or Joyce Citron CPA. Um, Now, the reason that I'm kind of giving this thought on the retirement, and I say it, make sure you account for your retirement accounts. Not all of them have tax implications, but they need to be noted. And I know, hopefully, nobody listening to this podcast, nobody watching this is of this pedigree. But sometimes people feel like if they don't say anything, nothing will get found out. That is not true. And just because you say something doesn't mean there's going to be taxes on it. Sometimes it's just a reporting issue. So make sure you know which category you fall into, because there are sometimes, tax requirements requirement distribution, taxes on early disbursement, sometimes penalties if it's early disbursement from, qualified retirement plan. You need to know what you're responsible for, and don't just hope that you're not responsible for anything, because hope is not a strategy for success. Um, the other thing, double check your information. If and this helps, this is the reason why we say create a checklist. If you have a checklist, it's easy to go back and say, okay, why don't I have that thing that I had last year? Maybe it's not necessary, or maybe you just forgot about it. But having a checklist really helps. Just double check your information, make sure you have what you know is needed, and ask questions about things that you maybe aren't that familiar with. And then determine how you're going to file. Are you doing it with a tax professional? Are you doing it on your own? Whichever way you decide, I would I would caution you to not make a decision solely based on finances. A lot of times, by paying to meet with a professional to do your taxes, you will save, you know, handsomely over what it would have cost if you had done it your own. Even if you're getting a return, maybe your return should have been bigger. I don't know, but you won't know if you don't sit down with a professional. And also make sure you understand when the deadlines are. Don't think, okay, I have until the absolute last day and I'm going to submit everything. Some companies actually stop receiving documentation at a point, maybe a week, 2 weeks before the tax filing deadline, so they can continue processing all the paperwork that they have for their clients. And it makes sense. If they were taking information up to the last day, it wouldn't even be fair to you to say they have enough time to give it a professional review. So it makes sense for these companies and service providers to stop receiving information a week, 2 weeks ahead of the tax deadlines. So you should know what the deadlines are. You should also know when they're receiving, what their deadlines are for receiving documentation. And then make sure you get copies of everything. And we're not talking about printing out something and walking away with the book. Just having a digital copy of the forms you submitted, a digital copy of the return that was filed, helps you with your records when you go for loans, be it for a car, house, kids' education. Documents are needed, so you want to have them at the ready versus letting that time period where it was top of mind expire, and now you're making a phone call 7, 8 months later, hoping that your tax professionals can go locate your file, which they should be able to do. But it's much easier while you're in the file, while it's fresh on everybody's mind, to ask for a copy of whatever information you need. So those are just some, key things that a person should do or a business owner should do when preparing for tax season. Thank you for being with the Three Money Amigos, and we will see you again next Tuesday.